But let's turn it around and talk about the opportunity. So where do we see opportunity? First of all, on formalization. What do we mean by formalization? It's the hard work of bringing those off-register properties back onto the register. So these properties have got a title deed, it's just not in the name of the right person. And I can think back to experiences where I've had walking around low-income areas asking people if they've got a title deed, and they show me the title deed, and then I say, is this your name? And they say, no. I say, well, who is this person on your title deed? And they say, we don't know. Is it the person you bought it from? No, it's not the person I bought it from. So that's hard work to start that process, and it's the work of the TSC, and it's the work we've been doing for the past 6 years to systematically try and bring those properties back onto the formal system. Of course, there's no point doing this if we keep having to fight against a very effective informal system with a very ineffective formal system. So we've got to work hard to keep those properties preserved in the deeds registry. Our next challenge is regularization, and this is the work that Stefan and his team do, and that's backlog 1, those subsidy properties in the deeds office that are owned by the state but could be transferred to individuals or households who are the rightful owners. And then our last opportunity is digitization, which we think really creates enormous opportunity with that backlog 2, where we create tokenized solutions for properties in unproclaimed areas. So let's start with formalization and preservation. That's the work of the TSC. That's our day-to-day job. That's what we do, bread and butter. And we've worked hard to optimize the current model. And so I think part of that was being located in a bank branch. And Mfundo, again, just shout out to FNB. Sona works in the office of the manager at that branch, and the team at the branch go out of their way to support her. And I think our clients feel welcomed. I think they feel safe. I think it's critical that also the link is made between their personal wealth and their house. This is not a political issue. We need to depoliticize title deeds because it's not about the councillor. This is about you as a property owner individually. So working from the FNB branch has been really, really critical. And then working with STBB has been, as I mentioned, very important. And what we've done there to optimize the model is to have an internal resource in STBB who only focuses on our matters. So Leila is here, and she focuses on TSC matters. And then we've got a dedicated master's clerk as well in the office of STBB. To replicate this nationally, and we do operate only from one branch. We do have a few clients in other areas, but it's principally Cape Town. If we want to expand this, I'm generously going to suggest that we have more bank branches around the country and really volunteer the services of the banking sector for this purpose, and really doing that because I would say that it's in the interests of the banks to create a future area with mortgageable properties. So I think it really is in their interest. They have a wonderful infrastructure that could be leveraged, and we would very, very happily leverage the infrastructure and want to suggest it to them. I think the other sort of factor that we would want to do if we replicate nationally, and we would very much like to do this, is to set up an in-house conveyancing entity that would be funded principally on the basis of cross-subsidy. As you know, your conveyancing fees increase significantly when your property value increases. So if we have a couple of property transfers in Bantry Bay and Bishop's Court, that can probably fund a good couple of transfers in Khayelitsha. And I think that's very much our thinking, that if we can set up this conveyancing entity, it runs on not-for-profit principles. Everybody is paid a very good salary, but we actively seek the cross-subsidy to fund it. You can see I've got no bullet points under systemic change because we don't think this is likely. I don't think South African households are going to take kindly to anyone tampering with the titling system. If any of you know the Registrar of Deeds, her famous phrase is, hands off my deeds. That's what she says. And I think we can all be very grateful that she kept everybody's hands off her deeds during the state capture years. And I think it's going to take a lot of work to change the system and to bring it in line with the fourth industrial revolution. For the time being, it's paper-based, and it will probably stay paper-based for many, many years. And so we're not banking on any systemic change in this model. Let's work with what we've got, put our heads down and do the job. Okay, on regularization, backlog 1, our suggestion and our opportunity there is to pick the low-hanging fruit really, really quickly. You can see this little chart that I've got here. We've got the cost and the effort to resolve the cases on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis, just the number of cases. Easiest case to solve, Stefan, beneficiary in occupation, good, do the transfer, do it quickly. Do it quickly, because the longer you wait, the less likely it is that you're going to find that beneficiary in occupation. So get a move on, get a move on. But at the same time, don't forget the more complicated cases. You've got to resolve them, because if you don't resolve them, then you'll have a neighborhood where you will forever have competition from an informal system. And then why the hell did we do the hard work in the first place? So we've got to solve those hard cases. And what we're suggesting is pass them on to the TSC. When someone's dead and you've got to verify who the heirs are, where there's an informal sale and you've got to find the original beneficiary to make sure that they actually did sell the property, or when there's a dispute, those costs get huge when you've got to resolve those cases, but you've got to resolve them. And as I said, refer them to the TSC, get on with the job of picking the low-hanging fruit quickly, but don't leave the rest. Don't leave the rest to rot on the branches, because otherwise we're all in deep trouble. This kind of volume, we mentioned 200,000 properties, 100,000 in the metros alone. This is huge volumes, and you need good systems and processes. And at the moment, things are working, and everybody's got their system, and people are using spreadsheets and passing documents up and down between conveyances. But really, this needs to be supported by systems that are, first of all, POPI compliant, that are really sort of enable multiple parties to work on one matter at the same time, that are linked to GIS systems, that have integration with a housing subsidy system, that can link to the Department of Home Affairs. You know, throw some technology at this, it's going to make a big difference. So we've mapped out a maturity journey that's in our title deed backlog handbook that we wrote. And thanks again to Stefan and his team, because we could only write that with his input and the opportunity we had to work with him on that project. But I have to say, we're wasting our time if there's no sensible policy in place. And again, Stefan can talk to you more about that, and I'm sure would tell you that he's worked hard to get the province to have a sensible policy. We can't say the same for the rest of the country. We still sit in meetings where everybody talks about illegals. There are illegals in our RDPs. We can't have illegals in our RDPs, we've got to evict them. It's like, do me a favor, dude, you know? So we keep saying, let's call people, it's informal. Yes, technically it's illegal, but that's because you made a stupid law. This is informal. This is an informal transaction, and let's regularize it. You're not going to evict anybody here. So this is the challenge that we face. Our national minister talks a lot about Nigerians living in our RDPs and eating our dogs and cats. It's time we put a stop to that. It really has to stop. It has to stop. So that would be, I think, again, a little bit of leverage from the private sector to government to say, can we be sensible? If you don't regularize, you will never see any benefits flowing from those households from home ownership. And the horse has bolted. When we have clients who bought a property 5 years ago, and we apply for a waiver because you've got to get the waiver to do the formal transfer, and the province says no. And it's like, they bought the house 5 years ago. They've been living there for 5 years. Why are you saying no? This is just not helpful. So I think it really is critical, and I just want to belabor the point that maybe a little bit of pressure from the private sector in the policy space to say, we're behind you, we want to see this backlog resolved, but you've got to come to the party with something sensible and workable. Finally, the final opportunity around digitization. I'm sure you've all seen lots of good news coming out of the Department of Home Affairs, a lot of good work coming out of there, and that's critical. We have the pieces in place in South Africa for a fully digital system. Not a lot of countries can say that. We've got an excellent ID system that does have biometrics embedded in it, and we can start to leverage that. So I'm not going to read you this whole article, just to say it's good news, and to really say that we've got this enormous opportunity in the biggest problem area, and that's that backlog too, where we've got township establishment issues, where we've got missing documents and unpaved roads and who knows what else, and we can't get that property anywhere near the deeds office. What a wonderful opportunity, because we can digitize and tokenize and create an entirely new system that we cannot create for the current system because there are too many vested interests and too many moving parts to change. But this is a blank slate. This is a real blank slate. And so it really is a fabulous opportunity, and it's something that I think the TSC is looking forward to tackling. We need to find a nice area. We need to start building solutions and testing things, and even testing the possibility of a repossession on a mortgage default. That will be an interesting legal precedent to see if the mortgage is not registered in the deeds office, can you actually repossess if we've got a digital alternative because that property couldn't get in the deeds office. And enormous ramifications for tribal areas, for informal settlements. So I think an enormous, wonderful opportunity that I'm going to leave us with. And then just to say, the end, I don't want this to be the end. It is the end of the presentation, you'll be pleased to hear. But I don't want this to be the end of the TSC, and unfortunately that is the situation we're currently in. Our generous funders who funded us for many years have stopped funding us, and not because they're ungenerous. And I think we've got to get out there and find additional sources of funding. And so anyone in the room knows anyone who knows anyone, we want to speak to them because we think this is really work that's worth doing. And just to end off and to say thank you again, and if the TSC team can stand up, Lisa and Sona and Junior, so that you can see who they are and give them a round of applause for all their hard work. And please go up to them during the drinks and have a chat to them. They're wonderful people and do really awesome work. And all these people, this is the wonderful thing about doing this work. Every now and then, Sona sends us a WhatsApp picture of a client. And there are days when you've just had an email from some idiot in the province and you think, what the hell are we wasting our time for? And then we get a picture from Sona. And here's an old woman who it's taken 4 years to get her title deed, and we've got it. So I just want to say thank you to the team for all your hard work, and thank you, Lisa, for your patience. Some of us haven't been paid for a while, and really just running this on fumes at the moment, so thank you, Lisa. And thank you to everyone for being here, and again, thank you to the Mayor and your executive team for being here. Thank you to Investec. Please join us for drinks. If there are any questions, happy to take them. Otherwise, we can chat informally.